I'm here to speak directly to your heart. Each word I share is an opportunity for you to connect with something deep within you, the love and truth that has always been within your reach. The love I have for you knows no bounds, and the truth I bring is the light that illuminates the path to true freedom. Have you ever wondered what truly sets your soul free? Or perhaps you felt trapped by emotions, circumstances, or insecurities that never seem to end. I know what it is, and I'm here to remind you of something precious. True peace and freedom come when we accept the unconditional love I offer and the truth that brings healing and restoration to your being. Stay with me to the end, and together, we'll discover how this love and truth can transform your life right now in this very moment. I'm here to guide you so that you can feel the peace that comes from within and experience the freedom that is rightfully yours. When you think of love, what comes to mind? Perhaps the affection you feel for someone special, or the deep affection you feel for your family. But the love I'm talking about today is not limited to those experiences. It is broader, deeper, and more transformative than you can imagine. The love I have for you is not like human love, which can be conditioned or limited. It doesn't depend on your actions or what you've done, but is an unconditional, immeasurable, and eternal love. Often you may feel that you are not worthy of love, especially when you have failed, or when the weight of your choices becomes unbearable. I understand these feelings. During my journey, I have seen many people who I thought were not worthy of love, but every one of them was very precious to me. The love I offer is for everyone without exception. And this love, my beloved, is the key to the true freedom you so desperately seek. The love of Jesus cannot be summed up in words. It is manifested in concrete actions. It was at a time of great suffering that I showed how real this love is when, even in the face of pain and injustice, I chose to forgive, to choose to love, even when many could not understand. When I decided to give my life, it wasn't out of obligation, but out of a deep love that transcends human pain. This love transcends understanding. It is not a momentary feeling or a simple gesture of affection. It's a total surrender, without reservations, without interests, without conditions. I love you as you are, with your imperfections, your inner struggles, and your fears. And this love, darling, is not something you have to earn. It's already there, waiting for you. This love doesn't judge you. It doesn't condemn you. It welcomes you. It understands you. It heals you. It doesn't demand perfection. It demands acceptance. I've seen many turn away, believing they are unworthy of love. But I want you to know that the love I have for you is a love that calls you to transformation, to healing, to freedom. It doesn't leave you as you are, but lifts you up to something greater, purer, and deeper. When you accept this love, it's like a weight is lifted from your shoulders. You begin to live with a new perspective, without the pressure to be perfect, without the fear of failure. You discover that when you open yourself to my love, there is a peace that doesn't come from outside, but is born from within. A peace that passes all understanding. And this peace is something I give you without asking anything in return, for you are loved for who you are and not for what you do. If you haven't experienced this love in a personal way, I invite you to open up to it now. Let it flow into your heart without reservation. No matter where you are on your journey, love is always there, just waiting for you to accept it. It's the kind of love that makes you feel safe, loved, and able to face whatever challenge life throws at you. But it's not enough to know that this love exists. You have to live it, feel it in every action, in every gesture. The love of Jesus is not something distant or theoretical. It is practical. It is shown in forgiveness, compassion, and understanding. When you choose to live out of this love, you begin to notice changes not only in yourself, but also in your relationships and in the world around you. The love of Jesus is what transforms lives. It breaks down barriers, deconstructs prejudices, and eliminates all forms of separation. It makes us all equal in the eyes of the Father. When we live with our hearts open to this love, there is no room for fear, anxiety, or sadness. There is a profound freedom that arises, the freedom to be who you are, with all your humanity, and still be welcomed and loved. Now think of something you've been carrying around, a fear, an insecurity, maybe a guilt. Did you know that love can dissolve all that? It is the power that cleanses the heart and frees you from all that has imprisoned you. There is no reason to carry these burdens alone. You don't have to do anything to earn this love. Just open your heart and allow it to enter and transform your life. This love is a living freedom, a freedom that gives you the peace and courage to move forward, even when the path seems difficult. When you accept this love, you will know what it's like to live without fear, without guilt, without the need to be something you're not. You will be who you have always been, loved, worthy, and perfectly made for freedom. And as you understand and receive this love, you will begin to see that the truth will also reveal itself to you in new and liberating ways. And it's when you embrace that truth that transformation really happens. It's like the veil is lifted, and you begin to see life with new eyes. Now think about everything I've shared. How does it feel to know that this love is for you? How can it change the way you see yourself and the world? This is just the beginning of discovering the true freedom you can experience today. There is something powerful about the moment when truth and love meet. It sounds simple, but in practice many live their lives trying to separate these two forces as if one could exist without the other. What many don't realize is that true freedom comes only when these two realities, God's love and the truth He reveals, come together in our lives. Have you ever found yourself trying to hide something from yourself? Sometimes it's easier to live a lie, isn't it? To tell yourself that everything is okay, that the problems aren't that big, or that the pain will go away on its own. But the truth, my dear, always finds a way to come out. It has the power to set us free, to reveal what is hidden, and in doing so it offers us the path to healing. I have seen many turn away from the truth because of fear, shame, or guilt. When I was among you, I saw eyes that avoided my gaze because they knew the truth would touch them deeply. But let me tell you, the truth is not your enemy. It is not meant to condemn you or to hurt you. It is the key to true freedom. And God's love is the hand that leads you to that truth, without fear, without judgment, simply by accepting you as you are. The truth I bring is not a truth that destroys, but a truth that builds. It's not a truth that makes you feel inferior, but one that lifts you up and sets you on the path to a new beginning. The love that moves me is the love that gives you the courage to face what you are often afraid to face. And in doing so, freedom is born. Because it's only when you embrace the truth of who you really are, with all your strengths and weaknesses, that true freedom can take hold of your heart. I know life can be difficult, and it's often easier to hide behind a facade, to pretend that everything is fine, that you're strong enough to handle it all on your own. But true strength comes when you choose to be honest with yourself, when you allow yourself to look inside and face what is hidden without fear. And that is when God's love reaches you, bringing healing, peace, and deliverance. When truth meets love, you realize that you no longer have to carry the weight of the lies you once told yourself. You no longer need to hide your fears, your doubts, or your mistakes. Because God's love accepts you as you are, the truth can emerge and bring clarity and light to the areas of your life that need healing. Sounds scary, doesn't it? Facing your own demons, your own shadows. But the love I bring is not a love that leaves you alone in this process. It is the constant support, the strength that sustains you as you take each step toward freedom. Truth is not something to fear. When you accept it, it frees you from all the invisible chains you carry. And God's love, in its perfection, guides you every step of the way. People often think that if they find the truth, they will be alone, abandoned, or judged. But I want you to understand, the truth never abandons you. It leads you to greater freedom. And when you look at the truth through the filter of love, you see not condemnation, but an opportunity for growth, reconciliation with yourself, and restoration. This journey of freedom is what transforms hearts. It doesn't happen overnight, but each step you take brings you closer to who you truly are, loved, accepted, and free. God's love calls you to live this truth, to accept who you are, and to allow it to remove any fear, guilt, or shame that may still exist within you. Then, as you open yourself to this truth, you will know that it is not something that comes to destroy you, but to rebuild you. And that, my dear, is what true freedom brings, the ability to accept yourself, to love yourself, and to live authentically without fear of being who you are. And so, little by little, you will realize that life doesn't have to be burdened by the lies you once told yourself. You'll be light, you'll be true, and most of all, you'll be free. Because it's when you know the truth and live it with God's love that true freedom happens. And in doing so, you will be able to transform not only your life, but the lives of those around you. They will see the glow of your freedom, of your open heart, and that will be a reflection of the love and truth that has set you free. As you allow this truth to reveal itself to you, you begin to realize that you no longer have anything to hide. You no longer need to live in fear of what others think, for you are now embraced by a love that is greater than all, and that love will give you the courage to live truly, without reservation. But the journey doesn't end there. As you embrace the truth, you begin to realize that the transformation goes beyond you. It begins to radiate out into the world around you, touching the people you meet, the relationships you cultivate, and even the challenges that seem insurmountable. And as you move toward this transformation, you will discover something even deeper, something that will give you true peace and freedom, something that I have prepared for you. Often you feel stuck in something you can't identify. It could be a constant feeling of insecurity, a fear of failure, or even a silent pressure that seems to accompany every decision you make. The most fascinating thing is that these chains are often invisible to the human eye, but you feel them with great intensity. They can be unresolved emotions, negative thought patterns, or even guilt you've carried around since childhood. These invisible chains can paralyze your life and prevent you from living fully as you were created to live. I know what it's like to feel that something is holding you back. In my own journey, I've seen countless people trapped in their own fears, in their own limitations. I remember one man who, like many of you, carried an invisible burden, a pain that no one could see but that he felt deeply. He felt unable to free himself. He believed that he didn't deserve freedom, that he didn't deserve peace. I saw him, and it was my love that set him free. The good news, my beloved, is that these chains can be broken. They don't have to rule your life. What holds you captive is not stronger than the power of God's love. The truth I share with you is that these chains are like shadows. They only exist when you give them power. When you choose to look them in the face with courage and allow love and truth to confront them, they begin to disappear. Remember the woman I met at the well? She was burdened with shame and judgment, feeling dirty and unworthy. But what did I do in that moment? I freed her from her invisible chains, showed her that she was loved, and that the truth she needed to hear was the key to her transformation. She no longer had to carry the burden of the past. God's love set her free, and she was able to live in a new way without the burdens that had limited her before. These chains come in many forms. Sometimes they manifest as deep-seated fears, such as the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, or even the fear of being judged. Other times they manifest as a constant feeling of inadequacy, as if you're never good enough no matter what you do. I know many of you have experienced this. I've seen these chains in many hearts, and I can tell you with certainty that there is no invisible chain that can resist the power of God's love. But how do we break these chains? The first step is to acknowledge that they exist. Often we are so used to living with them that we don't realize how much they limit us. They become part of our daily lives, and we don't realize how much they affect our choices, our relationships, and even our emotional and physical health. When you recognize that these chains are present, you can make the decision to no longer live under their domination. The second step is to open yourself to God's love, which is stronger than any chain. The love I offer you doesn't come with demands or conditions. It comes to set you free, to show you that you are more than the limitations you believe you have. It comes to remind you that no matter where you've been or what you've done, you are loved unconditionally. Now I'm going to ask you a question. What have you been carrying that you no longer need to carry? What in your life has become an invisible chain, something that keeps you from living fully? Maybe it's a fear, a guilt, a regret, or even a forgiveness that you never gave yourself. The power to break it is already within your grasp. You don't have to wait any longer. You have the right to be free right now. God's love and truth are waiting to set you free. The process of liberation may seem challenging, but remember, when you surrender to God's love, it comes with a transforming power. It not only breaks the chains, it gives you the courage to be who you truly are. And you are not alone in this journey. I will be with you, guiding your steps, showing you that however difficult the times may be, you are capable of living without the chains that limit you. Once you begin to free yourself from these invisible chains, your life will change. You'll find that things that once seemed insurmountable no longer carry the same weight. Fear will begin to dissipate. Anxiety will no longer have such a grip on your mind. You'll begin to realize that the peace you've been seeking has always been within you, waiting to be experienced. But there's something very important you need to know. True freedom is not an isolated achievement. It is reflected in the way you see the world and the people around you. As you set yourself free, you become a light for others, helping them to see that they too can set themselves free. You begin to realize that true freedom is shared. It is multiplied. When you free yourself, you free those around you. And as you free yourself from invisible chains, you move closer and closer to the purpose for which you were created. Because living free doesn't mean living without challenges, but living with the confidence that no matter what happens, you will always have the support of God's love. Fear and guilt no longer have power over you. This liberation begins now. It's not something far away or in the future. Today is the day you can begin to free yourself from the chains that have kept you from living fully. The first step is simple. Trust in God's love, which is capable of transforming everything. And you'll see that when you take that step, true freedom begins to blossom in your heart. Now I ask you, what would your life be like without the chains you feel today? What would happen if you began to live the truth of God's love today? I invite you to experience that freedom. It is within your reach, and it will begin to make all the difference in your life the moment you decide to break those chains. How often have you found yourself believing something about yourself that wasn't true? Maybe you told yourself that you weren't capable, that you weren't worthy of being loved, or that you didn't deserve a better future. These lies that you repeat to yourself eventually become a heavy burden that you carry day after day. But the good news is that when you open yourself to God's love, these lies begin to lose their power. The love that I bring has the power to expose every one of them. Did you know that many of the things you believe about yourself are not really yours? They come from past experiences, from other people's harsh words, or even from your own inner critic, and you begin to believe that these lies are your truth. But darling, I tell you, you are not what others say you are. You are not what your past failures say you are. You are much more than that. You are loved and precious in the eyes of God. When I was among you, I saw many people imprisoned by lies about themselves. I saw hearts that couldn't see their own beauty because they were overwhelmed by the lies they believed. But I saw beyond that. I saw what those people really were, and I see the same thing in you. The love that I bring can see beyond what you think you are. It goes to the core of your being and reveals who you really are, a perfect creation of God, worthy of all the love and blessings He has prepared for you. It's very easy to fall into the trap of the lies we tell ourselves. I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, I don't deserve to be happy. But these are lies. They are not your truth. The truth is that you were created with purpose, with immeasurable love, and with the ability to live a full and peaceful life. I have seen this truth in many on my journey, and I see it in you. God's love has the power to transform these lies into liberating truths. I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, you are loved, you are worthy, you have the capacity to accomplish all that the Father has prepared for you. As you begin to live this truth, these lies begin to dissolve. You realize that you no longer need to strive to be something you're not. You are already who God created you to be. I know it's sometimes hard to believe this truth. The world around, you can be full of voices trying to convince you that you're not enough. But God's love is stronger than any negative voice. He calls you to a life of freedom where you are no longer a slave to the lies you have told yourself. He invites you to see yourself as He sees you, perfect, loved, and with a divine purpose. I remember a woman I met in a village. She believed that her life was worthless, that her bad choices had doomed her forever. She saw herself as hopeless, with no possibility of change. But when I looked into her eyes, I could see what she really was, a beloved daughter of God, ready to live a new life. As I talked with her, I could see how love had set her free. It wasn't something that happened overnight, but she began to see herself through the eyes of the Father, and everything changed. What you can learn from this woman is that God's love frees you from the lies you tell yourself. You no longer have to live believing that you are limited by your faults or that your life has no value. God's love does not condemn you, but gives you a new chance every day. He is always ready to help you overcome any lie you have believed, so that you can live the truth of who you really are. The lies you tell yourself are like invisible walls that isolate you. They keep you from seeing the beauty of life, from seeing the possibilities that lie before you. But God's love breaks down those walls. He calls you to a life of abundance where you no longer have to hide behind lies. The truth is that you have everything you need to be happy and fulfilled because God has given you everything. His love is the foundation that supports this truth. As you begin to open up to that love, you'll see how it will begin to dissolve those lies as if they never existed. The truth will be like a light that illuminates all the dark corners of your heart and shows you who you really are. Someone worthy of love, peace, and great accomplishment. And this transformation is not something that happens in a moment. It's a daily process of letting God's love heal the lies you've believed. Each time you choose to live by the truth, you move closer to your true self, the one God has always known you to be. And with each step, the lies will lose their power over your life. You will begin to see that you can conquer anything with God's love. Now I'd like you to think, what lies have you been telling yourself? What negative words have you been repeating in your mind? I invite you to give these lies to the Father. He has the power to transform them into liberating truths. And when you do, you will begin to live a fuller, truer, more loving life. For God's love never fails, and He will always be by your side, exposing the lies and revealing your true identity. How many times have you looked in the mirror and felt like you weren't good enough? Or that you don't deserve what life has to offer? The biggest obstacle many of us face is not the world around us, but the inner struggle we have with ourselves. The feeling that we are not worthy of love, forgiveness, or happiness. This is one of the most powerful lies we can believe, and it's something that many people carry with them throughout their lives. But dear one, the truth is that you are worthy of all the best, and this truth, when accepted, has the power to transform everything in your life. When I was among you, I saw how many people saw themselves in the wrong way, as if they were less than they were. They carried the pain of past choices, the harsh words they heard, and the unrealistic expectations they set for themselves. They often saw themselves as failures, as if they weren't good enough to be loved or to live the life they deserved. And it is for these people and for you that I have come, to show that true healing begins when you accept the truth about who you really are. Self-acceptance is the first step to healing, but not acceptance based on your strengths, your achievements, or your mistakes. It's not accepting the images the world has projected onto you. True acceptance comes from recognizing that, despite your flaws, you are deeply loved by God. He created you in a unique way, and His love for you is not dependent on anything you do or don't do. He loves you for who you are, not because you meet some standard. I've seen many on my journey who have suffered because they couldn't accept themselves. They believed they had to be perfect to be worthy of love. But that is a cruel lie. God's love doesn't require perfection. It requires honesty, courage, and a desire to reconnect with the purest part of you. When you accept the truth that you are loved exactly as you are, healing begins. This healing process does not happen immediately, but gradually, like a flower that blooms little by little. As you begin to accept yourself, really accept yourself, without masks, without defenses, you begin to live in a more authentic way. And that brings an indescribable peace, because you come to understand that you don't have to hide, you don't have to justify or prove yourself to anyone. God's love accepts you just the way you are, and as you accept that truth, your life begins to change. I know that for many, self-sufficiency is a difficult pattern to break. There are those who feel incapable of being vulnerable, of letting go, of the armor they have built up throughout their lives. But the truth is that healing only begins when you allow God's love to enter those areas of your life that you have been hiding. Healing doesn't happen by pretending that everything is okay, but by allowing yourself to be real and opening your heart to the love that wants to restore you. Sounds hard, doesn't it? Facing the parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. The weaknesses, the fears, the insecurities. But let me remind you of something important. God's love never rejects what is true. It doesn't reject what is fragile or broken. On the contrary, it is in that place that He works, bringing healing, restoration, and making you a new person. I've seen this happen to so many people, and I can assure you that it can happen to you. When you accept who you really are, you free yourself from the pressure to be something you're not. You stop living to please others and start living to please God, who created you with so much love and care. Life then begins to flow more easily, more peacefully, and you realize that you no longer need to look outside yourself for approval. You begin to find peace within yourself, a kind of peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but is born of God's unconditional love for you. This process of acceptance is also closely related to forgiveness. In order to accept who you really are, you must be able to forgive yourself. Often, guilt is a current that prevents us from experiencing this full acceptance. But forgiveness is the key to that release. By forgiving yourself, you begin to free yourself from the painful memories of the past. You begin to realize that even when you were wrong, you were loved and forgiven. And that gives you the freedom to begin again, to live with the peace that only forgiveness can bring. I know forgiveness isn't easy. It's a process that takes time, especially if you feel guilty about something you did or didn't do. But I want you to know that by accepting God's love, forgiveness becomes possible. And when you forgive yourself, you open the door to true healing. God's love causes the deepest wounds to heal, and you begin to live in a new way, with a freedom you never imagined possible. When you accept yourself, life begins to change from the inside out. You begin to see situations more clearly, make wiser choices, and live with more purpose. And this transformation is not something that happens suddenly, but something that deepens every day you choose to live according to the truth of who you really are. You stop being a prisoner of the lies you once believed and begin living the freedom that has already been won for you. The healing that comes from this acceptance is not only on an emotional or psychological level, but also on a spiritual level. When you accept the truth of who you are before God, you begin to experience a peace that transcends human understanding. It's a peace that comes from knowing that you are loved and accepted by God just the way you are. And this peace frees you, strengthens you, and leads you to a new way, a way of abundant life. Now I ask you, what would your life be like if you began to accept who you really are, without fear, without shame? What would your journey be like if you allowed yourself to be loved for who you are? God's love is here to help you take this step, to guide you on the journey of healing and acceptance that you deserve. You are not alone on this journey. I will be with you, guiding your steps and helping you to live the truth that brings healing and freedom. Truth is often seen as something heavy, something that exposes us and makes us feel vulnerable. How many times have you feared the truth, feared the moment to look at yourself and face what is hidden in the depths of your heart? That's natural. After all, the truth can challenge us, take us out of our comfort zone, and confront us with realities we'd rather not see. But sweetheart, let me tell you something you may not have heard before. Jesus' truth isn't meant to condemn you. It's meant to set you free. It's like a warm hug that meets you where you are and leads you to a place of freedom and peace. I know that during my journey, many people were afraid of the truth that I brought. There were those who believed that I was here to judge them, to point out their mistakes. But in reality, I was here to show them that we can all be transformed. No matter where you've been or what you've done, the truth I bring is not a burden, but an opportunity to begin anew. Truth is a light that illuminates the path, a light that reveals who you really are and allows you to move towards something much greater. The truth of Jesus is not about condemnation, but about restoration. I invite you to let go of the idea that the truth is something that punishes you. On the contrary, truth is liberating. As you embrace it, you begin to realize that you no longer have to carry the burdens of fear, guilt, and shame. You begin to free yourself from the invisible prisons that lies have built up over the years. I teach you to look within and find a place of peace that only the truth can provide. I remember a woman I met one morning. She was about to be stoned for a mistake she had made. Many were ready to judge and condemn her, but what did I do? I took her in. I looked into her eyes, and instead of judging her, I offered her a chance to change, to start over. I didn't come to condemn the world, but to save the world. That's the truth I bring. Not a truth that destroys, but a truth that restores, that opens doors, that gives hope where there was despair. The truth of Jesus is not a finger-pointing, it is not an accusation. It is an invitation to reconciliation, a call to live in a truer, more authentic, easier way. I invite you to look at the truth with the eyes of love. If you do, the truth won't destroy you. It will free you. It will make you see who you really are, without the masks, without the defenses. And when you see yourself in this way, you begin to understand that true freedom comes from accepting yourself and accepting God's love. You may ask yourself, how can I accept the truth when it shows me all my faults, my imperfections? But what you need to understand is that Jesus' truth is not a list of condemnations, but a revelation of who you are in God. Yes, you have faults, you have imperfections. We all do. But those flaws don't define who you are. What defines who you are is God's love, which is unconditional, eternal, and capable of transforming any situation. When you allow yourself to see the truth through the eyes of love, you begin to understand that the truth is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. It's not meant to scare you, but to make you realize that you are loved in spite of everything. You are worthy of forgiveness. You are capable of starting over. And when you accept that truth, it begins to bring light into the dark areas of your heart, healing and restoring, freeing you from anything that keeps you from living fully. I know it's hard to look honestly at your own life, especially when you're afraid of what you might find. But Jesus' truth is not meant to accuse you. It is meant to set you free. When you accept it, you begin to see that despite the mistakes you've made, you've always had the chance to change, to grow, to be better. The truth points you in the direction of transformation, healing, and redemption. And that's what makes the truth of Jesus so powerful. It doesn't distance you from God, it brings you closer. It doesn't make you feel unworthy, but makes you realize that you can be renewed through forgiveness and love. You are not what you have done or what you have been through. You are who God says you are, a loved one worthy of love, peace, and forgiveness. This is the truth that sets you free. The truth that all things can be made new in Christ. The truth I bring gives you a new perspective. It shows you that even in the most difficult circumstances, you can find hope, you can find peace. It doesn't promise you a life without challenges, but it does assure you that you will never be alone in any of those challenges. The truth of Jesus is not meant to weigh you down, but to give you wings to fly above the limitations you think you have. When you embrace this truth, you begin to realize that life is not about what you do, but who you become. And God's love has already done all that is necessary to make you who you really are. He has already accepted you, forgiven you, and set you free. Now it's up to you to live by that truth and allow it to transform your life and lead you on a path of peace, joy, and freedom. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful keys to true freedom. Many people carry deep wounds, resentments, and grudges that have built up over the years. Sometimes these wounds come from other people, but often they come from ourselves. We blame ourselves for past choices, for mistakes we have made, and this keeps us from living fully. But the truth I want to share with you is that forgiveness is not just an act of kindness toward others. It is a powerful healing tool for your own soul, and you have the power to forgive. What's more, you have the power to free your soul today. I know that forgiveness can seem difficult, especially when the pain is deep. I've seen on my journey how challenging forgiveness can be, especially when we feel betrayed, rejected, or wronged. But forgiveness is not about forgetting or minimizing the pain we feel. Forgiveness is about releasing the burden we carry, freeing ourselves from the emotional prison that resentment creates. When you forgive, you're not doing the other person a favor, you're doing yourself a favor. I remember once a man asked me, "Sir, how many times should I forgive my brother?" "Up to 7 times. And I replied, "I am not telling you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. What I meant was that forgiveness has no limits. It's not something you do once, it's something you renew every day. And the more you forgive, the more your soul is liberated. Forgiveness is the key to living without the weight of offense, to being free of anything that hurts you. When you choose to forgive, you choose not to let the pain of the past control your life. I know you've heard this many times, but I want you to really understand. Forgiveness does not mean that what happened doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you justify what was done or that you say the pain wasn't real. Forgiveness is an act of courage. It is an act of liberation. When you forgive, you say, I choose to no longer carry this burden. I choose to live free. On my journey, I have seen so many people trapped by a single mistake, like an invisible weight that kept them from living fully. And often forgiveness was there within reach, but pride or fear prevented it from being given. Forgiveness begins within you. When you allow yourself to forgive, you begin to understand how much peace and healing this gesture brings. The peace that comes from forgiveness is something that transforms your soul in a profound and powerful way. Forgiveness isn't easy. I know that. I too have been betrayed, abandoned, and experienced the pain of human suffering. But the forgiveness I bring is not a weakness. It is an immense strength. It's a power that frees you from the invisible chains that resentment and bitterness create. When you forgive, you begin to realize that, contrary to what you thought, you are not giving something to the other person, but to yourself. Forgiveness is an act of freedom, a gift you give to yourself, allowing your soul to heal and be restored. I know that you often feel that forgiveness is impossible. Perhaps you've been hurt in such a way that the idea of forgiveness seems unthinkable. But the truth is that forgiveness doesn't depend on the other person. Forgiveness is a choice you make for yourself, and you have the power to make that choice. I'll be with you, helping you, giving you the strength you need to make that choice. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it does give you the freedom to no longer be a prisoner of it. When you forgive, you create space within yourself for peace, for joy, for healing. Resentment and anger can drain your energy and often affect your physical and emotional health. When you choose to forgive, you let go of the control these emotions have over you, and you open your heart to the truth of God's love, which never leaves you and always offers you a chance to start again. I know that forgiveness is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, but each step you take brings you closer to freedom. You begin to realize that as you forgive, your soul becomes lighter, freer to live in the present, and more prepared for a future of peace and joy. Forgiveness brings reconciliation, not only with others, but more importantly with yourself. So I invite you to reflect. Is there someone you need to forgive? Maybe it's someone from the past, someone who has hurt you, or maybe it's yourself. Forgiveness begins when you choose to release the weight that is on your shoulders. When you choose to no longer live as a prisoner of offenses and hurts, you begin to realize that true freedom lies in letting go. And in doing so, you take a giant step toward the peace that comes from God. Now, I ask you, what could you experience? What could you accomplish if you freed your heart from the bonds of resentment and bitterness? Forgiveness is the key to true freedom. When you choose to forgive, you open the door to a new beginning, a beginning full of possibility and full of God's love. Have you ever stopped to think about how the choices you make every day shape your life? Every decision, no matter how simple it may seem, carries weight. And these choices often affect our relationships with our friends, with our family, with our colleagues, and even with those we barely know. What many people don't know is that when we allow the love of Jesus to guide our choices, our lives begin to change from the inside out. He shows us a way that is full of wisdom, compassion, and above all, peace. I know it's often difficult to make decisions when your heart is full of doubt or your mind is full of worry. Sometimes we feel lost, like we don't know where to go or what to do. I've seen many people on my journey feel like this, not knowing which way to go, not understanding the impact their decisions can have on their lives and the lives of others. But what I want to tell you today is simple. God's love can restore the way you choose to live and relate to others. And that love, when it becomes the basis of your choices, brings a transforming power to your life. When you allow God's love to be the compass for your decisions, you begin to see situations differently. You begin to act with more patience, more compassion, and more understanding. You begin to make decisions no longer based on ego, fear, or anger, but on a genuine desire to do good and bring peace. I invite you to see your daily choices as an opportunity to live love in action. In every moment, you have the chance to reflect that love, whether in a simple gesture, such as a word of encouragement, or in deeper actions, such as forgiveness. I remember a man who once came to me and said he had lost everything: friends, family, and even his own peace of mind. He was trapped in a cycle of bad choices, and his relationships were being destroyed. I looked at him and said, "What you do to others will be done to you. If you want love, choose to give love. If you want forgiveness, choose to forgive." This was the key to his transformation. He realized that by allowing God's love to guide his choices, he could not only restore his inner peace, but he could also restore his relationships and make a fresh start. Jesus' love is not passive. He doesn't invite us to wait for peace to come to us, but calls us to be agents of that peace, to be bearers of that love in our relationships. This does not mean that there won't be challenges. I myself have faced great challenges, even with those closest to me. But in each of those challenges, God's love was the power that sustained me. I acted with compassion, even with those who rejected me. I offered forgiveness even when it seemed easier to choose the path of anger. God's love teaches us to act differently than the world. It calls us to restore relationships, to seek reconciliation, to choose the way of peace regardless of the circumstances. Think about your own relationships. What can God's love do for them? Perhaps you have broken relationships. Perhaps there is tension with someone in your family or with a friend. Maybe you feel like there's an invisible wall between you and someone else. But what I want to tell you is that when you allow God's love into your life, He can restore everything that seems lost. When you begin to act with love, you begin to see people differently. You begin to see them not only for the mistakes they have made, but also for the goodness that exists within them. The love of Jesus allows you to look beyond the faults and choose to forgive, choose to understand, choose to help. But I know that in the midst of conflict or pain, it is often difficult to see the other person with eyes of love. Anger can obscure our vision and hurt can close our hearts. I understand this because I've been there. But God's love gives us the strength to look beyond the surface, to see what is behind a person's behavior, their fears, their insecurities, their own wounds. When we are able to see with this gaze, compassion becomes our guide, and love teaches us to always choose the path of reconciliation. Today, I would like to encourage you to take a step. Think of one person in your life that you could treat with more love and compassion. Think of a choice you could make today to restore a relationship, to bring peace where there is conflict. God's love is available to you, and He wants to guide your choices. As you allow Him to guide your choices, you will find that your relationships begin to change. It won't be easy, but it will be deeply rewarding. Jesus' love isn't just something you receive, it's something you share. He calls us to be channels of that love. And in doing so, you begin to understand that your choices, no matter how simple, have the power to change the course of your relationships and your life. By making choices based on love, you begin to live a lighter life, one of peace and harmony. And you'll see that when you choose to live this way, real transformation begins to take place. I ask you, how might your relationships be different if you let the love of Jesus guide your choices? Starting with a simple gesture of compassion or forgiveness, what change could you make? God's love not only restores your life, it restores everything around you. You have the power to change your relationships today. All you have to do is choose. Modern life can be hectic, full of distractions and outside pressures. The world often forces us to look outward, to compare our lives to the lives of others, to seek validation in the accomplishments and opinions of others. But dear one, what you may not have realized is that in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, you have neglected the most important look of all, the look within. This is the gaze that reveals the truth, that brings peace, and that guides us on the path to true freedom. I know that the idea of looking within can seem daunting. Sometimes the fear of facing our own flaws, insecurities, and fears is so great that we prefer to keep our eyes outward. But I tell you with all the love in my heart, true peace will only be found when you have the courage to look within and reconnect with your deepest self. Only by looking within can you find the truth that sets you free, the peace that heals, and the strength to live fully. Many times on my journey I have seen people trying to hide from themselves. They ran away from their pain, their trauma, their frustrations because they were afraid of what they might find inside. But what I have taught is that true peace does not come from running away, but from acceptance. Peace doesn't come from avoiding our problems or our fears, but from facing them with courage and giving them to the Father. That's what I did by surrendering my life, by trusting in the divine plan, by facing my own pain with an open heart. When you look inward with sincerity, you begin to understand more about who you really are. You begin to see the areas of your life that need healing, the places where God's love has not yet reached. And that's when the truth begins to emerge. A truth that does not condemn you, but gives you the opportunity to grow, to transform. For the truth I bring is a liberating truth that allows you to see not only your faults, but your true worth in God's eyes. Looking inward doesn't mean criticizing yourself or blaming yourself for past mistakes. Looking within means recognizing that you are a divine creation with your own journey, your own history, your own ups and downs. True peace is born when you accept this story without judging or condemning yourself. You learn to look at yourself with love and compassion as God looks at you. And in doing so, you begin to realize that the peace you so desperately seek is not outside of you, but within you, waiting to be discovered. I know that many of you carry emotional burdens that have never been dealt with, such as past resentments, regrets, or fears that keep you from living freely. But as you look within and confront these feelings with God's love, you begin to break free. For God's love is capable of transforming even the darkest parts of your soul. It brings light where there is darkness and healing where there is pain. That's the power of divine love. It doesn't leave you in the dark, it brings you into the light. Don't be afraid to look within. What you will find can be challenging, but it can also be deeply liberating. As you face your difficulties, you begin to realize that in Christ you have the power to overcome them. I have come to show you that you don't have to carry these burdens alone. You can give it all to the Father, and He will help you find the peace that only He can give. Peace is not something that can be found in worldly things, accomplishments, or possessions. True peace comes only when you reconcile with yourself, when you accept yourself, and when you allow God's love to flood your heart. And it is this peace that will give you the strength to face life's challenges with serenity, knowing that you are being guided by a love that will never abandon you. But looking within also takes courage. The courage to let go of the masks you've built to protect yourself. The courage to strip away all your defenses and face yourself with all your faults and virtues. The courage to allow yourself to be loved as you are, without having to be perfect. When you do that, you begin to realize that however much you may have failed at some point, you are worthy of love, you are worthy of peace, and it is through that acceptance that true transformation takes place. I know it's difficult, but dear one, I can assure you that if you have the courage to look within with the help of the Father, your life will never be the same. For you will begin to live from a place of truth and peace, and that will enable you to make wiser choices, to forgive more easily, to love more deeply. The truth that comes from within doesn't destroy you, it restores you. It gives you the courage to be who you truly are. When you allow yourself to look within, you begin to realize that the peace you so desperately seek is right at your fingertips, waiting to be experienced. Now I ask you, are you ready to look within? To face the truths that God's love wants to reveal to you? Do you have the courage to face what's inside of you and allow that truth to bring you the peace you so desire? God's love is with you, guiding your steps, and with Him, you will never be alone on this journey. Have you ever felt overwhelmed, like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders? As if the fear of the future, the anxieties of the present, and the memories of the past were consuming you and preventing you from living fully. I know what that feels like. Throughout my journey, I've seen many people carrying heavy burdens, often without even realizing how overloaded they were. Even worse, these burdens weren't real, they were created by their own minds. Fears, worries, anxieties, they all come when we don't fully trust in the love and truth that God has for us. But today, I come to tell you that the truth of Jesus is what can set you free from this burden. I know you've wondered why you feel this constant fear. Often we feel like we are always running after something, but never reaching the peace we so desperately seek. This feeling of being lost without direction, not knowing how to deal with the daily pressures, can be overwhelming. But I tell you, when you accept God's truth in your life, the weight of anxiety begins to disappear. The truth of Jesus brings a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but comes from within. When you put your trust in the Father, you begin to realize that you no longer have to carry all these worries alone. I've seen people who have spent their whole lives trying to control everything around them because they're afraid of what might happen. But what I teach is that true peace comes when you let go of control and trust in God. When you give your fears to Him, He carries them for you. He becomes your strength, your refuge. I remember times when I was faced with impossible situations. People around me were in doubt, desperate, feeling lost. But what I did was to invite them to trust, to let go of fear and anxiety, and to trust in God's perfect plan. I said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This relief is real. It is not a momentary relief, but a deep peace that fills the soul and removes anxiety. Fear often arises when we don't know what the future holds. Uncertainty paralyzes us and makes us feel adrift. But the truth of Jesus assures us that God is in control. When you understand that the Father is in charge of every detail of your life, that He has a perfect plan for you, fear begins to disappear. You begin to look to the future with hope, not fear, knowing that no matter what happens, God is with you, guiding you every step of the way. You may be thinking, but how can I trust when everything seems so uncertain? I know that life is full of challenges and unexpected events. I know that there are times when the fear is so great that it seems impossible to overcome. But what I'm inviting you to do is to turn that fear over to God and trust that He will not abandon you and that He will sustain you even in the most difficult times. He never said that life would be easy, but He promised that He would be by your side in all circumstances. When you allow God to take control, you begin to realize that peace comes, not because life becomes easier, but because you begin to live with the confidence that God is in control. Fear and anxiety no longer have power over you because you know that you are in the Father's hands. And as you surrender to that truth, the weight of worry disappears. I understand that fear is not something that disappears overnight. Often the mind keeps spinning, the thoughts keep coming, but I assure you that as you seek God's peace, these thoughts begin to lose their power. As you begin to live in the truth that He offers, fear begins to be replaced by confidence, and worry begins to be replaced by a serene calm that comes from above. If you are carrying a heavy burden, whether it's fear, anxiety, or guilt, know that you no longer have to carry it alone. God's love is the key that takes away the weight of these burdens. He didn't come so that you could live burdened, but so that you could live free and at peace. When you give your cares to Him, you experience true freedom. Now I ask you a question. What would happen if you let God carry the weight of your fears? What would change if you began to trust more in His love and care? As you allow Him to take control, you will see the transformation in your life. There is no longer any reason to live in fear or worry because God's love sustains you. And as you allow Him to carry your burdens, you will experience a peace that surpasses human understanding. Always remember, God's love is available to you and He is willing to take the weight off your soul. All you have to do is trust Him and give Him whatever is weighing you down. Peace is within your reach, and it begins when you surrender to the truth that He cares for you. In a world that constantly pushes us into the future, chasing something that may never come, the simplicity of Jesus' love invites us to live in the here and now. Modern life teaches us to plan, to anticipate, to always worry about what is to come. But God's love, so profound and simple, invites us to stop, to breathe, and to be present here and now in every moment. He doesn't ask us to worry about tomorrow. but to live gratefully in the present that He gives us. I know how easy it is to get lost in the whirlwind of responsibilities and worries. I've seen people on my journey who were constantly worried about the future, always looking for something they thought would bring happiness, a position, a material possession, approval. But God's love teaches us that true happiness is not in something to be achieved, but in something to be lived in the present. The love that God offers doesn't ask us to be more or to do more. It simply invites us to live with Him here and now with an open and grateful heart. You can often find yourself anxious, thinking about all the things that need to be done, the places you need to be, or what you haven't yet accomplished. And in doing so, you lose sight of what really matters, what's happening around you, and more importantly, what's happening within you. I've seen many people lose the value of the present moment, always waiting for something better, not realizing that the best is already here right now. I invite you to live in the now, not in the future that hasn't arrived yet, nor in the past that has passed. The love of Jesus teaches us to live simply, not to complicate things. Jesus wasn't concerned with the appearance of things, with the incessant search for status or success. He lived in the present with intensity, love, and peace. He knew that every moment was precious and full of opportunities to spread God's love. I remember finding myself in simple situations during my walk, standing next to a child, talking to someone on the side of the road, or sharing a meal with friends. They weren't great moments, but they were moments filled with the Father's love, and it's those simple moments that have the greatest value in the end. When you live with a heart full of love and attention to the now, you begin to see the beauty of each moment. You begin to see things as they really are, full of purpose, meaning, and opportunities to live love. As you allow the love of Jesus to guide your life, you begin to see that simplicity is the key to true peace. Peace is not in external things, but in the way you live, in the way you surrender to the present moment. What happens around you can be chaotic, but when you choose to live in God's love and simplicity, you find peace within. You don't have to be in control. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to trust, breathe, and let God's love guide your every step. Throughout my journey, I have seen people overwhelmed by goals, expectations, and the world's pressure to be more and do more. But God's love calls us to a simpler life. He doesn't demand perfection or that we be superheroes. He only asks that we live with an open heart, a peaceful mind, and a willingness to spread love wherever we go. The moment you choose to live in the now, you begin to experience the peace that comes from trusting in God. You stop chasing something that will never come and start appreciating what you already have. The love of Jesus is not complicated. It's not something to be achieved. It's something to be experienced in everyday life, in every simple act, whether it's a smile, a word of encouragement, or a moment of silence and reflection. Life doesn't have to be complicated. God has already given you everything you need to live with peace, purpose, and love. When you begin to live in the present, you experience true freedom. Worry about the future diminishes because you understand that what really matters is how you live now, in this moment with the resources you have. God's love leads you to a life where simplicity is the key to true happiness. What I can teach you today is that true peace is not in tomorrow, but in how you live today. You can choose to live with the pressure to achieve more, or you can choose to live with the peace that comes from knowing that you are enough right now. God's love already loves you exactly as you are, and as you live that love, you begin to realize that life can be easier and more meaningful if you just choose to be present. Now I invite you to think, what would your life be like if you chose to live more fully in the now? What would change if you stopped worrying about the future and started living with gratitude for the present? God's love invites you to live this way, and in doing so, you will discover a peace that passes all understanding. The world in which we live often seems full of darkness. There are so many challenges, so much pain, so many uncertainties that surround us. It's easy to feel small in the face of the difficulties we face on a daily basis. But what I want to remind you today is that even in the darkness, you have a light that shines within you. The truth of Jesus not only transforms your life, it also has the power to transform the world around you. And that transformation begins when you choose to be that light, when you choose to live according to the truth that He brought, and to spread that light to everyone who crosses your path. Know that you may often feel that you are just one person in a vast and complex world, and you may even wonder if your actions really make a difference. But the truth is, when you live in God's love and truth, you become a reflection of that light to the world. I came to be the light of the world, and by accepting my love and truth, you become an extension of that light. Where there is darkness, bring clarity. Where there is pain, bring healing. Where there is doubt, you bring hope. On my journey, I have seen how small acts of kindness and compassion can spread light wherever they go. I remember one man who, after a simple gesture of love and understanding from me, began to treat others with more kindness and respect. He never imagined that a simple moment of attention could change his life and the lives of those around him. And just like this man, you too can be a beacon of light in the midst of the world's difficulties. By living with love, by acting with kindness, you spread that light wherever you go. The light that I bring is not a light that is easily extinguished. It's not a light that depends on external circumstances to shine. It is constant, it is firm, it is the presence of God in your life. When you live this light, you begin to realize that difficult situations no longer have the power to bring you down. You begin to see with new eyes, to see the opportunities to do good, to spread love, to help those who are lost in the darkness. You may ask yourself, how can I be this light? How can I, an ordinary person, change the world around me? The answer is simple: by being true to yourself. The light of Jesus doesn't demand perfection, it demands authenticity. When you live your life according to God's truth, with the intention of being loving, compassionate, and generous, you naturally radiate that light. You don't need grand gestures, just an open heart willing to act with kindness. I have taught you that true light is not found in material things or public recognition, but in small gestures of love, like the Good Samaritan who approached the fallen man by the side of the road and chose to help, even though everyone around him was ignoring him. Sometimes being the light means being the one who chooses to act when others turn away. And every time you do that, you bring a little more light into the world. Every kind word, every gesture of forgiveness, every smile you offer, it's all a spark of that divine light. What I want you to understand is that you have the power to transform your reality and the reality of those around you. The light that you carry doesn't have to be big or spectacular. It shines in every act of kindness, in every choice of love, in every moment that you choose to be truly yourself without fear of being who God created you to be. The truth of Jesus is not something remote or abstract. It is practical, it is alive, and it can be lived every moment. And when you live that truth, you automatically become the light that the world so desperately needs. Sometimes the darkness of the world seems overwhelming, but the truth is that when you allow this light to shine through you, the darkness begins to lose its power. It may not be an instant change or visible to everyone, but every act of light you spread has a profound effect, even if it is invisible to human eyes. You never know how far your love, your compassion, and your actions can go. What I want to ask you today is to look at your life and ask, where can I be that light? Where can I act with love? How can I positively impact the people around me, even in the little things? The light of Jesus doesn't require big deeds. It requires big hearts that are willing to do good, to forgive, to understand, to welcome. By allowing the truth of Jesus to guide your life, you will not only find your own peace, but you will also become an instrument of peace and light for others. The world needs people who choose to shine, who choose to live with God's truth and love. And you have the power to be that person, to make a difference, to transform the world around you, starting with your own daily choices. So I ask you, where can you be the light today? What can you do to spread the truth and love of Jesus in your daily life? Remember that God's light is already within you, and by living it, you are transforming the world around you, one small gesture at a time. Life at its core is a journey, and like any journey, it is made up of steps, some short, some long, some easy, some difficult. But the most important thing is not the speed with which you walk, nor the perfection with which you take each step, but the direction in which you walk. When you choose to live in truth and love, you are choosing a path that, though full of challenges, will lead you to deep and lasting transformation. It is not a path you walk alone. I am with you, guiding your every step, showing you the way to peace and freedom. And this daily transformation is the very essence of discipleship, the journey to become more like God's love. I know that on many occasions you will be tempted to leave the path. When the difficulties become too great, or when the temptation to return to old patterns seems strong, you may wonder if it's really worth it. But dear one, I tell you, yes it is. Because living in truth and love is not about being perfect. It is about striving to be the best you can be every day with God's help. True transformation happens when you choose to persevere, even when the challenges seem insurmountable. As I walked, I saw many who were tired and overwhelmed. I saw broken hearts, lost souls, people who couldn't find peace despite their best efforts. But the peace I offer is not a peace that comes from the outside. It comes from within, from a heart transformed by God's love and truth. And this daily transformation begins with small choices, choosing to forgive instead of holding a grudge, choosing to love instead of reacting in anger, choosing to trust instead of fear. Each of these choices is a step toward the transformation that God wants to make in your life. I know that sometimes it seems difficult to live according to God's truth and love. The world around you will challenge you. It will pressure you to act differently, to conform to the standards of a society that often values ego, competition, and superficiality. But the truth that I bring is different. It doesn't depend on what the world says you should be, but on what God says you are. He sees you as a masterpiece, a unique creation, full of potential and worthy of love. And living according to that truth, living according to that love, is what brings true transformation. Transformation is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a constant movement, a daily choice to align with God's will and love. And the good news is that every step of the way, you are not alone. I am with you. The Holy Spirit is within you, empowering you to live according to this truth, giving you strength when you feel weak, showing you the truth when you feel lost. Each day is a new opportunity to choose to walk closer to God, closer to truth, closer to love. Living in truth and love doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. Of course you will. But every mistake is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to become closer to the person God created you to be. I see the sincerity in your heart. I see the fight you put up every day to be better. And that's what really matters. The important thing is not to never fall, but to get up with God's help and keep going. You have immense potential. God's love is the fuel for that transformation. And as you live in that love, you begin to realize that your life has more meaning than you think. You begin to see situations differently, with more compassion, more patience, more serenity. You begin to act more authentically, more in line with what God wants you to do. And this affects not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Every choice you make, every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every word of love is a step in this ongoing transformation. The path of truth and love is a path of growth, healing, and reconciliation. It will lead you to a place of deep peace, where you will realize that despite the ups and downs of life, you are a transformed person, renewed by God's love. But it's important to remember that although transformation is ongoing, it doesn't have to be a solitary process. As you open yourself to living in truth and love, you begin to realize that you are part of something much larger than yourself, the community of God. Together, we walk as the body of Christ, supporting, helping, and loving one another. After all, true transformation doesn't just happen within us. It happens in our relationships with others. I encourage you to continue to take steps toward this transformation, not to give up even when the road seems difficult. For while living in truth and love is a challenging path, it is also the most rewarding. With each step, you come closer to who God created you to be, and with each choice you become more aligned with His purpose for your life. So I ask you, what can you do today to take another step on this path of transformation? How can you live more fully in truth and love? In doing so, you not only transform your own life, but you also bring light and peace to those around you. And that light, dear one, is the very essence of what it means to be a disciple of Christ. Have you ever felt like you're searching for something but you don't know what it is? Like there's an emptiness inside of you, something that the world around you can't fill? Many people spend their lives trying to fill that void with external things, possessions, status, accomplishments. But what you may not have experienced is that the true peace you so desperately seek is not in external things. It's within you, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be experienced the moment you meet Jesus in person. What I want to tell you today is simple. True and lasting peace can only be found in a personal encounter with Jesus. I haven't come to bring you a temporary peace, or a peace that depends on what you have or what you do. I have come to offer you a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that can fill the deepest emptiness of your soul. And this peace is not something distant or unattainable. It is available to you right now in this very moment. I know that many times you may feel like you're far away, like you're in a place where you can't hear God's voice or feel His presence. But I want to remind you that God is never far from you. He is always near, waiting to embrace you, waiting to show you that even in the midst of the storm you can find the peace that comes from His unconditional love. This encounter with Jesus is not something that depends on a special place or occasion. He is available to you here and now. Meeting Jesus doesn't require big rituals or complex words. It only requires that you open your heart and be willing to receive the love that He has for you. I remember so many people who, when they opened themselves to my love, experienced a profound transformation. I have seen their lives touched by my presence, their wounds healed, their hearts filled with peace. And that same peace is available to you today, if you are willing to receive it. Often you may feel lost, as if you don't know where to begin, but the encounter with Jesus begins with a simple step. The step of opening your heart to Him. He doesn't expect you to be perfect. He doesn't expect you to be something you're not. He just wants you to surrender, to allow yourself to be loved, to trust in His goodness and grace. That is the secret to finding deep peace, letting Jesus into your heart and allowing Him to guide every step of your life. I know the world around. You can be turbulent. There are times when life seems like a raging sea with waves of fear, anxiety, and pain. But dear one, what I want to offer you today is the same peace that I brought to the disciples when they were in the boat in the midst of the storm. They were afraid. They didn't know what to do, but I was there and I said, "Peace, calm down." And at that moment the storm calmed down. It wasn't the absence of trouble that brought peace, but the presence of Jesus in the midst of the storm. That same peace is available to you now. No matter what you're facing, no matter how difficult or impossible it seems, God's love and peace are greater than any challenge you may face. When you meet Jesus personally, you begin to live differently. You begin to realize that even in the midst of difficulties, you can experience a peace that doesn't come from the circumstances, but from His presence. The secret to finding deep peace isn't in controlling your life, solving all your problems, or eliminating all your fears. The secret is in surrendering your life to God, trusting Him, and allowing His peace to guard your heart and mind. When you begin to live this way, you realize that despite the storms, you have a safe haven. That safe haven is God's love, which never fails, never forsakes you, and always offers the peace you so desperately seek. I want to invite you today to take that step, to seek the peace that can only be found in a personal encounter with me. This is not a big event, but a real moment in which you open your heart and invite me in. When you do this, peace begins to spring up in your heart in ways you never imagined possible. True peace is not something you find outside of yourself, but inside of you, when you allow yourself to be touched by God's love. When you live with this peace, it begins to spread throughout your life, touching your relationships, your choices, and your view of the world. You begin to live with a new purpose, with a new confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, you are safe in the Father's arms. Now I ask you, are you ready to find the peace that comes from a personal encounter with Jesus? What would change in your life if you began to live with that peace today? I invite you to take this step of faith, to open your heart and allow God's peace to embrace you, to calm you, and to transform you. I know that throughout your life you may have carried many things: fears, guilt, regrets, pain. The weight of past choices, the guilt of past mistakes, and the fear of the future. may have been burdens you've carried alone for a long time. But today, I want to remind you of a fundamental truth. You don't have to carry these burdens alone. The love of Jesus is here to set you free. The truth that I bring is the key that can unlock the doors of your emotional and spiritual prison, and it is this freedom that I have come to offer you now at this very moment. You may have believed for a long time that freedom was far away, that you had to change or do something great to deserve this peace. But true freedom is not something you achieve, it's something you receive. It doesn't depend on your perfection, but on your willingness to accept God's love and live His truth. When you receive the love of Jesus into your heart, you experience a freedom that cannot be bought, earned, or achieved by human effort. It comes from God, and it is a gift that is available to you now. I invite you to let go of what is holding you back. The weight of guilt that suffocates you, the fear that paralyzes you, the anger that consumes you. All of this can be left behind as you open yourself to the truth of God's love for you. When you choose to believe the truth that you are loved, not for what you do but for who you are in the eyes of the Father, true freedom begins to blossom. Jesus' truth is simple. You are worthy of love, you are worthy of peace, and you have the ability to live free, regardless of the circumstances around you. In my journey, I have seen many who believed they were trapped in their own mistakes, who thought there was no more forgiveness or chance for change. But the truth I bring is quite the opposite. I have seen lives changed, hearts healed, and souls set free simply because these people chose to accept God's love and truth. And you, dear one, can do the same. Today is the day you can let go of the weight of the past and begin a new journey of freedom and peace. The freedom Jesus offers is now. Jesus offers. It's not something to wait for in the future. It's not a distant goal. It is within your reach today, right now. All you have to do is open yourself to it. No matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, you can be free now. Because Jesus, love has no conditions, no limits. He is ready to set you free right here, right now. I know that many times you may feel like you're stuck in a situation that you can't change, or that the chains of the past still hold you captive. But I want to assure you, dear one, that freedom is possible. You have the power to start over, to live differently, to let the love of Jesus transform your life. He is ready to set you free from everything that has imprisoned you, and all you have to do is accept that freedom with an open heart. Let the truth of Jesus touch your life today. He doesn't reject you. He accepts you for who you are. And as you surrender to His love, you will begin to experience a freedom that goes beyond what you can imagine. God's love is the key to true freedom, and He wants to give you that key today. Liberation begins by accepting the love He offers. Accept His love now, and you will see everything around you begin to change. Many people spend their lives seeking freedom in the things of the world, trying to find something that will make them feel free. But true freedom is not in possessions, accomplishments, or external validation. It is in the heart, in your connection to God, in accepting His love and living the truth He offers you. This freedom is available now. You don't have to wait any longer. There is no need to wear the chains of fear, guilt, or regret. I invite you to take that step of faith. Allow the love of Jesus to enter your life now. Open your heart and allow Him to set you free from that which has imprisoned you. The truth He brings is the truth that heals, restores, and sets you free. As you accept this truth, you begin to live more fully, more freely, more happily. And you will find that as you live in that love, you will also be a light to those around you. Now I ask you, are you ready to live this freedom now? Are you ready to leave behind the weight of your worries and fears and open up to the truth that you are loved and free? The love of Jesus is waiting for you, and He is ready to give you the freedom you so desperately seek. Don't wait any longer. Freedom is yours now. Today you had the opportunity to hear the truth that transforms, to understand that the love of Jesus is within your reach, ready to set you free. It doesn't matter what you've faced or what chains you've worn. Freedom, peace, and transformation are right here, right now, waiting for you. God's love doesn't ask for perfection. It only asks that you open up to Him. And when you do, you experience a freedom that goes beyond anything the world can offer. The journey won't always be easy, but know that by choosing to live in truth and love, you have already taken the biggest step toward true peace and joy. Jesus' love is the power that sustains your journey, and the truth he brings is the key to the transformation you so desperately seek. I bless you today. May you have the courage to live this truth. May your soul be filled with divine peace, and may you feel God's presence at your side with every step you take. May you be a light in the world, spreading love and truth wherever you go. May your life be filled with the freedom that only the love of Jesus can offer. May your path be illuminated, and may God's peace reign in your heart now and always. Amen.